Hey y'all, so while I'm getting ready for Betty, for bed, let me tell y'all about one of the scariest things that has ever happened to me in my entire life. So, I used to work at a gas station. I worked at a gas station, and back at that time, there was a series of, what is this? This was supposed to be a moisturizer. It's like foundation. Hold on. Okay, so apparently I grabbed a tinted moisturizer that I didn't even realize I had. It's not what I wanted, but we're going to try this again. So, I worked at a gas station, and during that time, there was a series of robberies that were happening up and down 15-mile stretch. Every gas station on that road had been robbed. And we knew it was coming, but we just weren't expecting it. We didn't think that they were gonna hit us, because they actually hit the same gas station, like the last one before they hit us. They hit it twice. And so we thought, okay, well, they're not gonna come further down. And it was like a 4 or 5 day span, maybe a little bit longer, because, I'm bad with time and date and whatever. But anyway, so I was working with this guy, and I'm gonna call him Jack. So I was working with this guy named Jack, 3 to 11. And then the third shift guy came in, and I'm going to call him Snake. So, Snake shows up for work about 11:15. We've already counted down our drawers. So, for anybody that doesn't know, when you work in certain retail, you have to count your drawer down to a certain amount. In our case, it was $50 broken up in like ones, fives, and tens. And then some change, coins, change, and then everything else we took and dropped into like the slot that went into the office, where they then put it in the safe the next morning. So anyway, I had already counted down my drawer, and we had several $1,000s in cash in a brown paper bag, because that's what we did with it. We put it in a brown paper bag with our receipt paper, and we wrote the date on it, and then we stapled it shut and put it back there. Well, I hadn't had a chance to put it back there. So what we did with it until we put it back there was we had this machine that was underneath the counter. It was like a switch machine for a kerosene pump. I can't think. Anyway, so it was like a switch machine for a kerosene pump. And so we just lifted it, and I put the bag underneath it. It was visible on our side of the counter, but nobody from the back could see it, even though it was like an open counter, but it was far enough forward and yada, yada, yada. So anyway, we had counted down our drawers, and we had all the extra cash in there, and the third shift guy was helping out to get me out of there quicker. He was stocking some of the drinks. And so Snake was on his knees in the little smaller Coke case at the front of the gas station. We've got like the big ones in the back, and then in the front you've got like the Temptation ones, the smaller little coolers. So he was he was on his knees in front of one of those, putting in some 2 liters. And I was down the hallway. So like where the clown is, I was down the hallway. There was a stove there, like an actual stove, because we made certain foods there at the store and sold them, like egg salad and potato salad and stuff like that. So there was a stove, and I was bagging ice, and we had like this dolly that I would lean back like this onto the, well, more, okay, that's better, like this, onto the stove so that I could stack the bags and they wouldn't, you know, fall off as you're stacking them, because that's stupid. So I had it like this, and I was stacking ice, and, you know, you scoop the ice and you put it in the bag, and then you tie it, and then you put it on. Well, it's not a quiet process by any means. Anybody that's ever bagged ice knows it's kind of loud. So I'm back there bagging ice, and I can see down the hallway as clear as I'm looking at you guys. I can see down the hallway. I mean, it's like looking at that clown back there behind me. So I can see that Coke case because that's directly in line with my vision. And I hear the door that was about like, okay, trying to perspective here. Okay, like right here where the clown is. All right, and I'm the Coke machine, so figure it out. Anyway, so I hear the door like slam open, and I flip around and I look down the hallway, because, you know, I was bagging ice, and I look down the hallway, and I see Snake on his knees with the glass of the Coke machine like directly in front of him, and directly on the other side of that, pointed at his forehead, was a sawed-off. It was the scariest thing. I didn't like scream. No, my dumb butt went to turn around to run and hide in the back, because down the hallway there was the hallway was actually the employee bathroom and then the beer cooler. So you had like a hallway, but down where the clown is, and then around the corner, like towards the tree, there was the office door, which of course I couldn't get into the office, and I couldn't get to the door for the beer cooler because it was halfway between the back hallway and the front of the store. So instead, I was going to go around the corner. Well, I hit the dolly, the metal dolly that was leaned against the metal stove. I don't know why I keep going this way. It was leaned against the metal stove, and it fell. It is extremely loud, but they didn't hear it. So by the time that had happened, the other guy had come in. There were two of them. And I will never forget this as long as I live. The first one, these were the most unorganized rubbers I have ever heard of in my life, okay? The first one had on like a bandana here, okay? And he had on like a ball cap and a pair of socks. And he had the sawed-off. The second guy had on like winter gloves, like actual girls' winter gloves, and he had I think he had his shirt pulled up. I'm not so sure about that, but he had, and they were just unorganized. So I like went around the corner, and I slid my back down the wall like this. With the phone, I had grabbed off the wall, and the cord was stretched. If they'd have looked hard enough, they could have seen the cord. And if they'd have been paying attention, they'd have heard me. So I called 911. And while I was on the phone with 911, like I said, they were disorganized. One of them yelled, "Everybody freeze." The second one yelled, "Everybody get down." So, Jack and Snake, okay? So Snake, when he sees his face, he just says, "You've got to be effing kidding me." I mean, So cool, so calm. He'd been robbed before. He'd been there for years and years and years. But I was 22 at the time, so I wasn't quite so calm. But anyway, so one of them says, get down on the floor. And the other one says, everybody freeze. So Snake and Jack are like, what do you want us to do? And then the first guy, Sockhand guy, goes, give us your wallets. And the second guy goes, we don't want your wallets. And Jack yells, I don't have one. And then he says, do you want me to go to my car and get it? So the second guy goes, no, we don't want your wallets. We just want the cash. So they came around. They took the cash. In the meantime, I'm in the back, and I had my debit card in my back pocket. Single mom, making minimum wage. I was protecting that money at all costs. So when they yelled, give us your wallets, I was afraid they were going to find me and find my debit card and what little itty bitty cash I had. So I pulled it out of my pocket and I stuck it in my pants, inside my panties, just like this, so that if they found me, they wouldn't get my money. So anyway, I'm on the phone with 911. And they finally leave, okay? It seems like forever, but it's probably only been like 45 seconds, maybe a minute. And it happened really fast, but it felt so slow. I mean, time really does seem to completely stop. So I'm on the phone with 911, and they said, is everybody okay? And I said, yeah. I looked around, I'm like, hey guys, you guys okay? And Jack is Jack is bawling. I don't blame him. And Snake is just calm as a cucumber, goes outside and lights up a cigarette, and he's just standing there smoking. And I said, yeah, everybody's okay. We just really need a really big Valium. The 911 operator starts laughing, and she says, oh honey, I'm sorry, I can't help you with that. The cops get there, and they didn't catch him that night, but long story short, they caught them a couple of months later, or I'm not exactly sure the time frame, the timeline of exactly what happened, but long story short, I got a subpoena, and it was to go to court and testify as to what happened. Turns out it was two brothers, and before I was set to testify, one of the brothers unalived himself in the jail, then go to prison for a long time, because like I said, this was a string of robberies. And they were facing some pretty serious time. Well, the day that we went to go and testify, the guy, the second brother, the apparently younger brother, he was out in the hallway, and he sat down beside Snake. Snake was sitting beside me. Now, he didn't see me, so he didn't have a clue who I was. But he knew who Snake was because he pointed at him. So, I mean, yeah, of course he remembered him. So he sat down beside Snake and he said, hey man, you know, I'm sorry. I just wanted to say we were, you know, so high. We didn't even realize what we were doing. And I want to apologize for terrorizing you. And he said, Snake is cool, man. He says, nah, man, you know, I've been robbed several times and no big deal to me. But you scared the shit out of her. And the guy goes, her? Wait, you were there? And I said, yeah, I was there. I was there. And he said, we didn't see you. He said, I'm damn sure glad we didn't see you. He said, we were high on. He said, and if we'd have seen you, we'd have taken you with us. Turns out they had tried to another female from our parking lot that night. They told her to stay in the car and wait for them to come back out after robbing us. And she did stay, but then she ended up taking off before they came back out. Anyway, so I dodged a bullet on that one, and I did not have to testify because he took responsibility and pled guilty. It was a big to-do because the getaway driver, he tried to say that he was forced to be their getaway driver on multiple occasions, and he was parking more than a mile away from the intended target and waiting for these guys to come back from robbing the people to then drive off. So I don't see how he was forced into doing this, but he said he was forced into doing, not coerced, forced. Like, as in, by point, forced. Now, how do you force somebody from more than a mile away on multiple locations, multiple dates? I don't, whatever. But anyway, I don't know what happened to him. I don't know what happened with the case. Yeah, that was one of the scariest things that has ever happened. It was not in my face. Technically, they did not rob me, but it still scared me really badly. And to beat it all, they got away with about $50 because they did not see the cash drop paper bag that was underneath the kerosene switch. They didn't see it. So all they got was like $50 out of one register. And yeah, so I'm sorry that the man unalived himself, and I'm sorry for his family, but don't do the crime if you can't do the time. Okay? So that's my story about the night I was robbed. So anyway, tell me in the comments what y'all think. What would you have done in that situation? Would you have hid your money like I did? You never realize what you're gonna do until you're in those situations. And let me tell you, there's like 5 billion gazillion thoughts that go through your head when that happens to you. So sorry for the long vid, and bye.